Do you think we'll ever find out whose it was? And can you imagine if this was actually a Republican administration?
Oh, man. I mean, well, you know what? I'm not an investigator. I don't have police experience, but I have common sense. I'd start by asking a few questions of Hunter Biden. That's where I'd start if I were the police. He's been around the White House quite a bit. There he is. You see him there on the balcony watching the fireworks. We know his history. We know all about his disturbing laptop showing just a ton of drug use among other depraved activities. So that's where I'd start if I were the police, and I'm sure they're already thinking that. The question is, can they? Are they able to? It's so corrupt in that White House that, and the Department of Justice and the government's been, protecting Joe Biden and his son and all the criminals around them, that I don't know if they'll ever truly solve this big problem that they have.
Well, you don't have to be a crackhead to buy this particular story. There's a crackhead in the White House, Hunter Biden. And maybe he's doing cocaine there as well. Sounds pretty shocking, obviously, because it is. It is pretty shocking. What's more shocking is some of the responses we have seen to this story in the media. I mean, look at Andrea Mitchell here. She looks so worried and concerned and sad. And I know she doesn't like reporting news on Democrats when they have issues, but she's kind of shocked by this. I think she even says that this is so wild.
In the West Wing on Sunday was, in fact, positive for cocaine. The discovery led to a brief evacuation of the lab has confirmed the suspicion that that white powdery substance found in the West Wing on Sunday was, in fact, positive for cocaine. The discovery led to a brief evacuation of the White House Sunday night. Joining us now is NBC White House correspondent Mike Memoli. So, Mike, where do things stand now? This is so unusual. You and I have covered the White House for years. I can't even fathom anything like this having been found before in the West Wing, and I go back to the 70s at the White House. So this is pretty wild.
It's absolutely extraordinary, Andrea. And this new conclusive test confirms what had been the preliminary field test conducted by D.C. fire personnel who were called in on Sunday night after the discovery of this suspicious substance by a uniformed officer in the Secret Service that was conducting a routine patrol of the.
All right, so they found the cocaine, and it's wild, and they're kind of confused as to how this is happening. I mean, the simple question here that you always have to ask is, who goes into the White House without being checked? I mean, that's as simple as it is. Who goes into the White House without being checked? That needs to be the question.
White House. And so to recap on the developments that we've been reporting on yesterday, this was found, we understand, in a highly trafficked common area of the West Wing. It's an area where individuals, especially visitors, individuals who may be coming for instance, a private tour, might have been asked to leave some of their personal belongings before heading into more sensitive areas of the West Wing, which of course includes the president's, the vice president's office, some of the most senior officials' offices, as well as the press team and a number of deputies. And so this is an extraordinary discovery here. What we also understand is that the Secret Service is leading this investigation into how this substance came into the West Wing in the first place. This is.
Yeah, so they're doing this thing, and I give them props for it, to be honest with you. They're doing this thing where they're sort of suggesting that maybe someone from a tour brought it in. Because they weren't checked before they came into the White House, especially to where the president is. It's a highly trafficked common area. Anyone could just show up there. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I was in D.C., got drunk, wandered over to the White House, ended up in the presidential library, I mean, I'd be rich, because it just happens all the time. This is sort of how they're trying to sell this, but that's really about defending Hunter Biden more so than anything else. So ABC or NBC News, MSNBC, excuse me, super serious about this. Our friends over here on CNN, maybe not so serious after all.
Now, as you mentioned, a person familiar is now confirming to our Kevin Liptak that the lab tests have shown that it is positive for cocaine. Sources had previously told CNN that field tests in the moment had determined that it was possibly cocaine. We now know that that is the case. Now, where it was found was in the West Wing, in a common area, not an individual office, and
another common area. Just remember, it's a common area. And I'm not saying it's not, but please, let's not pretend that this could be anybody. Like, it could be anyone. You're right. It could not be Hunter Biden. You're right. It could be somebody else. But again, who's not checked going in there? Who? Who is not checked going into the White House? And whoever is not checked going into the White House, maybe they need to start checking them going into the White House.
It's also an area where private group-led tours pass through. We also know that the substance was found near where the guests are asked to leave their cell phones before proceeding into the West Wing. Now, of course, this did prompt that brief evacuation on Sunday evening. And they called in Washington, D.C. Fire Department, which deployed their hazmat suits to try to determine what this was. And now, since Sunday, we are learning that it is indeed cocaine. Now, again, this is part of an ongoing investigation. We're trying to get more from the Secret Service as to, again, how this got into the White House and who brought it in. All of those questions still lingering. But at the very least, those lab tests are now in. John?
If we never learn who did it, it's Hunter Biden. Okay, I mean, that's just the bottom line. If we never learn who did it, it's Hunter Biden. If we find out it was somebody else, okay, let's watch and see who that is. But, man, I just can't believe that private tour groups are just being let into the White House without being checked, and they have baggies full of white powder and things like that, and then just drop their stuff there, and then I guess maybe they realized they had their cocaine, so they left it. That seems to make a lot of sense, sure.
An investigation being led by the Secret Service, Priscilla, and we should note, I mean, clearly they know everyone who goes into that building. It is a known quantity.
That's right. I come in and out of this building on a regular basis, and you do have to pass, just like you would at the airport, through security. And so the question now is going to be how this came to be, and Secret Service is the one who's going to be fielding those questions.
All right. It is intriguing. Priscilla Alvarez, thank you so much for the latest on that. It was suspected. The field test said cocaine.
Yeah.
Now these more conclusive lab tests. Yeah.
I would like to know blow by blow who was responsible for this.
Too soon.
Oh, yeah, because they would not be joking around if it was Trump. Give me a break, too soon. But they are taking it rather lightly. I wonder why they didn't describe the security check that the reporters go through. I think that would have been a good piece of information here. Is it just they walk through like a metal detector, see they have a gun? I find that hard to believe.
Too soon on this. No one was injured, as far as we know. And it's an illicit drug at the White House. Why can't you actually have a bit of fun with it?
I don't believe in fun.
No, he doesn't. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, so again, they're doing that whole forced fun thing at CNN. That's fine. But it's worth noting here that as this conversation is taking place and they're having this discussion, it's just no big deal. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. I have a feeling we'd be having a different conversation if there was a different president. Like if the orange guy was still there, I think we'd be having a very, very different conversation. CBS News taking it pretty lightly as well.
Today. Now to a surprising discovery at the White House. What was it? A bag of suspicious white powder believed to be cocaine was found in an area accessible to tour groups, and the president and his family were out of town.
Tour groups, family out of town. I like how we keep hitting that, keep driving that point home, that it couldn't possibly have been the Biden folks, because Hunter Biden's never left anything behind. Not a laptop that had pictures of him doing cocaine off of prostitutes. I mean, Hunter Biden would never do anything like that.
At the time, the Secret Service is investigating now. Skylar Henry has the latest from the White House. Skylar, good morning to you. This is quite a surprise.
Certainly is, Gail. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. They should be able to sort this one out. I'm
pretty quickly.
I'm hung up on the believed to be comment. How long does it take to find out? Also, they're kind of blaming it on the tourists.
On the tourists?
The public area?
Yes. Are people careless with their cocaine?
It's an expensive drug.
So many questions there. A lot of.
It's funny. She mentioned that people careless with their cocaine. That reminds me, Hunter Biden left drugs in a rental car before, too. I'm kind of talking myself into more of this than it is Hunter Biden. I kind of always thought it was. It makes complete sense. But they're talking me into it here. Again, taking it pretty lightly.
Question. We are not quite to the Jimmy Carter level where multiple officials in the White House are in trouble and one person resigned. And I don't want to hear from President Biden or Trump. I would like to hear from one person in particular.
Who?
That Bill that used to sit on Capitol Hill from Schoolhouse Rock. You put this in layman's term, what happened? Because I'm a little confused. He was already rolled up in the cartoon. He was ready to go. All right.
All right, they're joking around. I don't think they're not very funny, but they are joking around and taking this rather lightly. The question is, again, is this serious? I don't really think so. Is it funny? Yeah, I think it is. Are these people funny? No, they're not. But this is a fun story to watch, and they're taking it pretty lightly right now, mostly because they're trying to pass it off as if it could potentially be someone who is like a tour group or something like that. I'm not buying that. It sounds like at least the folks on CBS, they're not really buying that either. Now, here's what you didn't expect. Folks on Fox News scolding people for making jokes about it.
Which room was this found in? That could tell you a lot. Okay, was it in the Roosevelt room where staff meets? That would make me think it's staff. Was it in a hallway where a tourist could go through? Was it in a cabinet room where it would have been maybe a cabinet official? It would tell you a lot. The press briefing room, maybe a member of the press. That could narrow it down.
Well, look, I've never worked in the White House, Kayleigh, but aren't there cameras, security cameras throughout the premises? I mean, and yes, this is a very serious story because, look, I mean, if somebody, and I'm not saying we don't know, but if it happens to be a staffer, or someone, that is very disconcerting because, you know, these people go through security clearances. I'm sure that there is sensitive information and things that are talked about and bandied about in the hallways. Look, I mean, this is very worrisome. Cocaine is a serious drug. As Tammy mentioned, it's very worrisome that somebody could have a problem and they brought it into the White House. Whatever the circumstances are, we'll hopefully get more details later this afternoon. But yes, I want to see the security footage. That's where I think that they're going to be able to find who this person is and what they were doing and why there's cocaine in the White House.
Right.
Yeah, I think really quick I want to say, look, you know, of course social media starts making fun, bringing up Hunter's name. It's not funny.
No,
and
it's not.
I think there was a lot of cheap shots taken at Hunter Biden. He's a recovering addict. Nobody wants to see him regress or slip back into addiction. And I think that the social media comments were just very tasteless on this whole story.
You know, it's kind of funny. Again, like, what is it with Hunter Biden? Everyone wants to feel sorry for him and talk about how the poor guy isn't recovering stuff. And that's great and stuff. But you're still opening yourself up for this stuff. And on top of that, you know, the White House is trying to cast Hunter as this reformed family man. That's what they've been doing. That's sort of the angle they've been also taking with Hunter Biden. I think that's one of the reasons why they're running him out there as often is so you can say, look at this guy, he's a reformed family man, so he's not an issue. This would be a huge deal, a huge serious deal if it is him. But even if it's not, we've got a massive security problem here because if you can sneak white powder into the White House, you could have snuck something else in there. Anthrax, something along those lines. So yes, it's funny. Yes, it's even funny to pick on Hunter Biden a little bit here. I was kind of shocked to see Fox News take that scolding position here because CNN, MSNBC, and CBS didn't really seem to be taking it all that seriously. Andrea Mitchell was a little shocked, but I think she's like that a lot these days. The facts are simple, though. There is cocaine at the White House. It got in there somehow. It came in through someone who is not searched. Who does that include? Those are the questions I would be asking. Karine Jean-Pierre is not ready for this. I can tell you that much. And the press should go pretty hard at her to figure out what's going on there. Because like they've said, cameras should show us who it is. Should not be that complicated. Hopefully, they're able to get to the bottom of this soon enough. And then, of course, as I said earlier, if they don't tell us who it was Hunter Biden.